I put you on do not disturb.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Can everyone hear me? At the back? Okay. So, welcome to the third session called Soul. Alright? So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Alright. So, the question, who am I? Okay. It's a very interesting question, isn't it? How many of you know who you are? You know? You're the soul. Yeah, the answer is it. Alright. Okay, so this is a question that has plagued philosophers since time immemorial, and the mystery of who I am has riddled man for ages. Now, man is not like a normal animal. He is a thinking animal. He's got a lot of curiosity. Right? He's curious about a lot of things. So now let us look at what is the modern science approach to this question of who am I. So what does modern science say? Modern science says that we are nothing but a combination of certain material elements, the smallest of which are atoms and electrons. And life is a series of transformations of non-living matter, which is characterized by the theory of evolution by a scientist known as Charles Darwin. Now he says that all emotions, thought processes, and so on are only physiological changes that take place within the body. But my question to you is, how many of you feel like you're a bunch of atoms? Huh? Hello? Hare Krishna? Hare Krishna? Hare Krishna? Hare Krishna? Can you hear now? No. Okay. So, the question is, do you feel simply a bunch of atoms? Huh? Okay. Fine. Now, the question I want to ask is, what is death? Death is nothing but the absence of life. But somebody might question now, but what is life? So life is consciousness. Sorry.
Presence of soul is alive.
Presence of soul is alive. Right, we're getting there. Life is consciousness. So, what is this consciousness? Consciousness means awareness of being, meaning I am. To understand that I am. Understanding that I exist. That is the start of consciousness. It is that item that distinguishes between a living and a dead body. Okay? But now the question is, what is the source of consciousness? Did it come from some chemical reactions of matter? Like in modern science, they say that a baby is born because of chemical changes in the body, and that is how life came about? Or is the source of consciousness distinct from matter? Okay, before we go ahead, how many of you think is the first one? How many of you think that it has come from chemical reactions of matter? And how many of you think it's a source distinct from matter? Raise your hands if you think that. How many of you think it's the first one? How many of you think it's the second one? Huh? And how many of you don't know? Okay, let's go forward. So, what is the source of consciousness? We are going to now show you 7 reasons why the source of consciousness is distinct from the body, meaning it is different from matter. The first question is, who sees or who hears? Okay? Does the eye see or does the brain see or who sees? Okay, who gives the power to see? Does the eye see? Does the brain who sees a function of seeing? Or is it something different? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, but so out of these three, which is the actual one who sees? The soul. Okay, and how are you confident that it is the soul that sees? Can somebody get the mic? I can't hear you. Is there a mic around?
If the body is conscious, it's unconscious, and the soul is conscious.
But if the soul is conscious, the body is conscious, it will not be able to see, right? So, how are you sure that it is the soul that sees?
Because if someone dies, the soul goes away from the soul. It's not conscious.
Yes, but then how are you still sure that it is the soul that sees and not the eye? Yes.
The answer to that is what happens when you are dead. The body is there, right? So
Yes.
what is there? The body is not seeing, it's not hearing, it's not feeling. And
Yes.
after a few days it starts rotting.
Yes.
So what has suddenly changed? What has left the body?
Exactly. Well done. Round of applause. So, a dead body will also have eyes, ears, it will also have even the brain. But the dead body is not going to be able to react or will not be able to see, will not be able to register sight and vision. So, the thing that's allowing the body to do that is the presence of the soul. Okay? Now, second one, if consciousness is come from chemical reactions, and we can put all the chemicals back in a dead body and try to make it alive. But has modern science been able to do that? No. So, if you're not able to put back the chemicals in the dead body and make it alive, that means that the source of the body being alive is something beyond chemicals. It's not chemicals. Third, it's common sense understanding. Just as Rishit Bhai said that we see a dead body and we have a comment saying, oh, this person has passed away. But who has passed away? The body is right there. The person you are seeing in your entire life is right there. So who has passed away? Right? So it must be something that is there which is not visible to our eyes that has passed away. So that's the common sense understanding. Fourth is an intuitive understanding. How many of you, if I tell you to raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. So notice, I said raise your hand, not raise I hand. No one says I hand. I am not the hand. The hand is my hand. It is, I am possessing my hand, but I am not my hand. Even in common linguistic languages, we say my body, my hand, my eye, but this is mine. Like it is a possession. It is not who we are. So even in intuitive language, we understand that we are different from the body. Fifth, the body changes, but I remains the same. Like Over here we've got a whole range. How many of you were once a child? How many of you are once a child? It's funny to see children even saying that, oh, I'm still a child. Yeah? So, we all went through the stage of babyhood to youth to middle age and finally to old age. But the sense of I-ness is remaining the same. Modern science even says that each and every cell in our body is different after every 7 years. The body you had 7 years ago and the body you have now is completely different. All the cells in your body have changed. So does that mean that you have become a new person? No, you still retain a lot of the identity that, oh, I am this and this person. That identity doesn't change as your body changes. It remains the same. That's the fifth reason. Sixth is there's a lot of cases of out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences. So this is now being backed up by research in science that there are so many recounts of patients who are in the ICU and at a bodily level they are unconscious, but yet after the operation is finished, when they come back out of their induced unconsciousness state and become conscious again, they are able to recount exactly what happened inside the operating theater at a time when medically they were meant to be unconscious. So how is it that they were able to see exactly what was happening? And that is because this consciousness temporarily was floating outside their physical body and was able to perceive what is happening in and around the body, and also near-death experiences. And finally, the most important is past life memories. There is a very famous American scientist by the name of Dr. Ian Stevenson, and he has conducted over 20,000 cases of people claiming stories of reincarnation, and he has scrutinizingly checked each and every story and tried to even rule out that there cannot be any fraud. And they were so he wrote a book saying 20 cases that prove that reincarnation exists. And in one of these examples, he quoted that there was this one American woman who, by the process of regression, past life regression, was induced in such a coma state that she was able to speak fluent Swedish, and she had never been to Sweden. She had got no contact with Swedish people, and yet she was able to speak the language in a fluent way that even the native Swedish speakers were surprised that the language is so difficult for normal Americans to speak, but this lady was able to speak it fluently even though she had no contact with the Swedish culture at all in her life. So this is known as xenoglasy. Okay, so these are the seven reasons that we can use to believe that consciousness is distinct from the body.
When you learn reading, you will be able to speak reading. Why will you not get that experience?
Sorry.
Why you cannot get the vast knowledge? You go to an example.
Yeah.
You given an example. You compare the person. She's both on the screen is very creative.
Yeah.
But why you cannot experience ourselves in the past moments?
It's because our subconscious brain is very deep, and it's very hard for us to access the subconscious brain. The subconscious brain is where all our experiences and memories lie, but they are quite deep. So in this body, we do not have access to get to them, but there are certain techniques that enable us to get to that depth, like past life regression and all that. And so that is why we are not able to recall. And also the reason why we are not able to recall is also for our own benefit. Now imagine that you are in this body, but you could remember how you died in your last life. Imagine the traumatic experience that you could remember. You're not able to function in this body. So by nature's design, it is such that we cannot remember our last life, so that we can be able to fully live in a rational way in this life. That there is no crossover. There is no crossover. It is only for our benefit to be able to live in this life. Otherwise, we will have something known as an identity crisis. Because if we start remembering who we are and what our past life is, it will cause chaos. Because you'll not be able to function in this world otherwise. You'll not be able to, because it will be an identity crisis. That's what will happen. So that is it's by nature's design that we are not able to remember our past life. But yes. Next. So the answer, the soul is a source of consciousness. Now, we already saw 7 reasons why we can believe this, but the ultimate reason why we know this and we accept this is because on the basis of Shabda Praman. Remember in the first session, we covered the 3 types of proof, and the best type of proof is Shabda Praman. So, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Gita that the source of consciousness is a soul. In Bhagavad-Gita chapter 2, text 17, Krishna says, that which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So Krishna says it in the Gita that the source of the consciousness is the soul. Okay? And now one may question, but if I cannot see the soul, how can I believe it? How can I believe that I am the soul? Yeah? But this is some counter examples. So just like sometimes on a very cloudy day, you might not be able to see the sun, but you can feel the sun's presence by the presence of what? The light, the sunlight. You can feel the sun's presence by the sunlight. Second, sometimes you're not able to see the electricity that's running in the gadgets, but you know that it is running there. Otherwise, the gadgets will not move, will not function. Another, a doctor, just by looking at a patient, can easily diagnose what is wrong with the patient. He doesn't need to check and everything. Just by the symptoms, we can understand that, okay, this is what might be going wrong in the patient. Yeah? Then, even sometimes we cannot see air, but we can feel the presence of air when in the source of wind. When the wind goes to your face, you can feel the presence of air. You might not see air, but you feel the presence through wind. Even sometimes you cannot see the Wi-Fi signals or the phone signals, but you know they are there because your phone will ring. You can see the Wi-Fi signal on the button on the phone. You cannot see the Wi-Fi signals, but you know it's there. So sometimes there are so many things in this world that you cannot see, but you can perceive their existence by the symptoms that they show. So the symptom that the soul exists in a body is consciousness. Okay? Like all of you are looking at me right now, and also this camera phone is looking at me right now. But there is a difference in the quality of looking from a human and a phone. And what is the difference? Lack of consciousness. The phone will not be able to understand what I'm saying, but you guys can understand what I'm saying. Right? You can interact with me. The phone cannot interact with me in that sense. Okay? So, next we have the qualities of the soul. So, the second chapter of the Gita is full of so many different qualities. Here I've just highlighted a few of them. So, can I get 4 volunteers to read these 4 Bhagavad Gita verses, 2.20, 2.23, 2.12 and 2.29. Okay, so one from this table here. 2.20.
For the soul. For the soul is neither God nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and forever. He is not saying what the body is saying.
Okay. Anyone else wanting to read 2.23? Any volunteer?
The soul can never be cut to the pieces by any weapon. The soul can never be cut to the pieces by any weapon. Not burned by the fire, nor melted by the water, nor blended by the wind.
Yeah. So it is imperishable. 2.12. Somebody at the back, maybe. Okay, Arsh.
Never was there a time. Never was there a time when I did not exist. Nor you, nor all you see, nor in the future shall any of us grace you.
Yeah. So this is a very important point, that your soul is always an individual. It never loses its individuality. It always remains as it is. Okay? This is a very important point. Then in the Upanishad, it is also described that the soul, if you take one piece of your hair and you cut it by 100 times, and then that piece you cut it by a further 100 times, that is the size of the soul. It's even said in the. So imagine how atomic, it's even subatomic. The size of the soul is subatomic. Then in 2.29, it says that some describe the soul to be amazing, some experience it to be amazing, and some people cannot describe it even because it's so amazing. So how is it amazing? That very small soul is powering the body of an ant, is powering the body of a human, is powering the body of an elephant. Imagine the sizes of these three different aspects. And it's also powering the soul, the body of a bacteria. It's even smaller than a bacteria. So imagine how amazing that soul is, that it can power all these different types of bodies. Okay? So, we have already established that the body is always dead. Okay? What is death? Death is simply the departure of the spirit soul from the material body. The presence of the soul within the body makes the body appear alive and exhibit symptoms of life. Just like sometimes you see all these cars with tinted windows and you start seeing it moving. To a person who is less informed, they would think that the car is moving by itself. But a person who is got higher intelligence will understand that the car is not moving by itself. That there is a driver within the car that is making the car move. But now some of you might say, oh, what about driverless cars? Now we've got to the age of driverless cars. But for even driverless cars to even function, there must be somebody who created a program for that car to go driverless. Yeah, there must have been somebody who created the program. When somebody says, oh, but what about artificial intelligence? But somebody also created artificial intelligence for it to happen. So the point I'm trying to make is that there must have been a spiritual spark or a spiritual soul that has created the original link, the original source of all of this is that has to be a spiritual person. Okay? And that is the presence of the soul. When the soul departs, the body is useless and is disposed of by the relatives very quickly. Isn't it not? No one, if somebody is, you must have seen death in your families, one of them. Do you keep the body there? No. You take it as quickly as possible to the cremation grounds and you burn it off. Why? Because the body is got no value now. The soul has departed. The body has no value. What had value was the soul who was residing in that body. Okay? So now I'm just going to make some comparisons between the qualities of the soul and quality of matter. So if you look at this, the first three, okay, the soul has got the qualities of Sat, Chit, Ananda. It is eternal, it is cognizant or conscious, and it has full knowledge, and it is always blissful. Okay? Compare it to matter. Because the soul is eternal, but our body is what? It's temporary. It is called Asat. It has got an expiration date. This body is not conscious. It's dead matter. It cannot move on its own. Yeah, it has to be. It has to have something conscious to move it, and it is full of ignorance. And third is Nirandana. It is without bliss, and it's prone to suffering. Alright? So if you think about it, it's completely opposite. On one side you have Sat, Chit, Ananda. The other side you have Asat, Achit, and Nirananda. So how we understand this is like you have got a square hole and you've got a round peg. Is it a perfect fit? Is it a perfect fit? It is always going to be some awkward position to try and fit a round peg in a square hole, right? This is what Krishna says, that this is why we suffer, because by nature we are eternal, but we are put in a body which is temporary, and so that's why we fear death. Why do we fear death? Because by nature we are eternal. Death is an unnatural feeling for us, but the body dies. So we are forced to go through this unnatural event called death. Secondly, we are always blissful, but in this body we are prone to so many sufferings. Just imagine even a small paper cut and how much our consciousness will focus on that small paper cut, and we are always having pain and suffering. Right? We don't want all these things, but we do get it because we are embodied. But by nature we are always blissful. That's why we always want to have happiness. There's no one in this world that wants to be unhappy. They are always searching for happiness. And why? It's because the soul by nature is blissful. Okay? So next.
In the material world,
Yeah?
what is we have to learn? Otherwise, we will get the function.
Yes.
So because of we should believe the physical body of God. Then we are here.
Yes, we have to nourish the body, because the body is a vehicle given to us. But if we start thinking that we are the body, then that is where the problem arises. The car, let's take this example. You are not going to think yourself to be the car. Yeah? Now if you think you're the car and you start drinking petrol, does that work? Does that work? If you start thinking yourself to be the car and you think, okay, the car needs petrol, so even I should drink petrol, does that work? No.
When you want to trade a car, petrol is required.
Petrol is required.
Physical body there to learn the
Yes, we have to maintain the body, but we should not only think about the body. That's my point. My point here is we are not supposed to completely focus our entire energy in thinking about the body. Yes, we need to do basic upkeep of the body, because this is the vehicle which will help us to get to the final destination. We will get to that in one later slide. Hopefully that will answer your question. Okay, we'll get to that in a bit. So the spirit soul, it has a form, and the matter has to be given form. The spirit soul has individuality, but matter has no individuality. And ultimately the spirit soul it belongs not here, not in the material world, but it belongs in the spiritual world. Okay? Now, I want two volunteers to read 7.4 and 7.5. Chapter 7, text 4 and chapter 7, text 5. Okay, and 7.5.
Besides these, Almighty Almighty, there is another superior energy of life. It comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature.
Right. Okay, so Krishna says that he has got two types of energies in the world. He's got a spiritual energy and then he's got material energy. Now the material energy is also broken down into two. He's got the 5 gross elements and then the 3 subtle elements. Okay, now let's see. From these eight elements that we saw previously, that there are 5 gross elements, material elements, and then 3 subtle material elements. These create the 2 types of bodies we have. We have a material gross body and a material subtle body. Now, if we draw in this type of diagram, that in the middle it's who we are the soul. Then the covering of the soul is done by the subtle body, which is comprised of mind, intelligence and false ego, and then that subtle body is covered by the gross body called earth, air, water, fire, ether. Now think about it, that like our clothes, the external clothes that we wear is the gross body. The undergarments that we wear, which are not visible, is the subtle body. But then who we are is essentially the bare body. Okay, just for illustration purposes. So, what is the mind? The mind is a storehouse of desires and memories. It does the function of thinking, feeling and willing. Intelligence is a faculty of discrimination. It informs us of what is right and what is wrong. And false ego is the most subtle part of this, which is basically forcing us to believe that we are not the soul, but we are this body. So false ego is a more subtle. A bit less subtle is the intelligence, and even less subtle than that is the mind. Okay? and then we get to the gross elements. So the false ego, it's called false ego because it is making you think that you are not a soul, but you are the body that you are currently in. Okay, this is the subtle body. So from these 5 gross bodies, from the gross elements, ether, air, fire, water, earth. This is the most subtle and this is the most gross. From ether, we get sound. From air, we get touch. Okay? From fire, because fire gives light. Light gives us the sense of sight. Water starts with giving taste. And earth finally gives the sense of smell. Each of these 5 senses have got their organs. So the sound is done by the ears, touch is done by skin, sight is done by eyes, taste is done by the tongue, and smell is done by the nose. Okay, so we call these the 5 gross elements, which gives rise to the 5 sense objects, which gives rise to the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and then we have, so we've got all of these things, but we need something to work, we need the body to work, so we have got another 5 working senses. So the 5 working senses are the hands, the legs, the anus, genitals, and finally we have voice. So 5, 5, 5, 5. Total, what's the total? 5 times 4? 20. Okay, so we got 20. Now we have these 3, mind, intelligence, ego. How many are that? Okay. And then we'll cover this later, which is known as the modes of material nature. We add that one. And so you get 24. These 24 elements is what the entire material universe is made up of. And all the bodies within it are made up of these 24 elements. Now some species will have less than this, but a human being is the most advanced because it has all of these 24 elements in it. Okay? So these are the 24, and then there are 2 more, soul and super soul, which make it 26. And just like in the English language, we have 26 letters, and from the 26 letters we can have an entire language and it's complete. Similarly, these 26 elements is what constitutes the entire material world. Okay? So basically the main point I'm trying to make here is that there are 2 different types of bodies. There's a gross body, there's a subtle body, and within the 2 bodies is the soul. Okay? Now, let's think of the body to be like the chariot. Okay? So, the horses in a chariot represents the senses, the 5 senses. Okay? The 5 senses. The reins means the ropes, they represent the mind. The driver represents intelligence, and the passenger in the chariot is the soul. So, what we can do to make sure that the chariot moves in the ultimate direction or in the ultimate destination? How can we make sure that the chariot is moving nicely in the way we want it to go? Because we are the passenger, we are the soul. We are at the mercy of the chariot to help us take us to the right destination. So, how do we ensure that the chariot moves in the right way? Yes.
Keeping the horses under control.
Yes. The first one. you control your horses, meaning you control the senses. If your senses are controlled, then it's like the horses are focused. They are not going everywhere. And so if the horses are not going everywhere, the chariot is also not moving like this. It is going in its right path, in a right path. Second, we need if the horse is a bit acting up, then what do you need? You need the reins, but more than the reins, what do you need? You need a very strong driver. Yeah, a driver who can control the horses. So, in this case, who is a driver? What does the driver represent? Intelligence. So, we need to make our intelligence stronger by spiritual knowledge. That is what will make the driver strong. Intelligence strong, you increase your intelligence by spiritual knowledge. So if you're able to do these two things, if you can control the horses and if you can make the driver strong, your chariot will go very nicely. It will not go wayward. Okay? So the overall purpose of the soul and body arrangement is fulfilled only if the senses are controlled. And if the senses are not controlled, it can take the chariot wayward and will not be able to get to our ultimate destination, which is a spiritual, the spiritual world, or basically back to God. Okay? So, my question to you is, in this day and age, in this society, material society is focused on what circle? You know, we saw the three circles: the soul circle, the subtle body circle, and then the gross body circle. Where does modern civilization give most importance to? Where does civilization, material civilization, give most focus upon? Which of the three circles? The gross body. Oh, you should go eat at this restaurant, you should go wear that clothes, you should go have this experience. Yeah? It's all focused where? On the outermost circle. But that outermost circle is temporary. But the innermost soul is who we are, and that is eternal. So we are just basically focusing all our energy where? On the external part, which is temporary and which is ultimately not us. But who we are not even putting any effort into understanding who we are and what our needs are. Yeah? So material civilization is like focused on polishing a cage, a bird cage, and ignores the needs of the soul, which is like the bird inside the cage. So, and plus the most interesting part is that we have sufficient experience that the happiness of this body is temporary and flickering. For example, when you eat a pizza, before the pizza comes, you are craving it. Then the experience of eating the pizza lasts for 2 minutes. And then after the pizza is finished, you're like, oh, pizza is finished, now what do I do? So this is what material happiness is like. There's a lot of craving. This enjoyment period is like 2 seconds long, and then after that you're just lamenting. Yeah? Or say somebody is working very hard to get money. They're just working, toiling and like really toiling hard and working very hard to gather money. Then they enjoy that money for some time. And then say they fix it in a bank, and then the bank collapses, all the money is gone. So there's a lot of hard work and toiling and craving to get to a certain position. You might enjoy that position for a bit, but then what happens? Some external effect happens and all your money is lost, and then you're lamenting. So this is the problem with material happiness. It has these three stages of craving, enjoying limitedly and temporarily, and then ultimately lamenting. And even if you have everything in this world, ultimately you will have to leave the world. So that is the final lamentation, that when people die, when people are close to death, then they get this massive feeling of lamentation. It's like, oh my God, I've worked so hard to build everything, and now I have to leave everything behind. What was it all worth for? So that lamentation at the end of life is unbearable. So exactly, the body is like a cage and the soul is like the bird in the cage. And if you do not take care of the bird in the cage and just keep on polishing the cage, it is of no use. Just like taking care of the car but not taking care of the soul, it is of no use. Yeah? Alright. Now, a very important point that I want to make here is that the soul, what is the soul? The soul is eternally part and parcel of God. Soul is an eternal fragmented portion of God's spiritual energy, and therefore it is eternally linked with God in a bond of service and devotion. Now 15.7, Krishna says, the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Fragmental means it is always separate. It is never going to become together. It is always separate. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. So what do we understand from this? Is that the soul is a part while God is whole. So the soul can never become God. So if you come to ISKCON, you'll really understand. All the time they say that the soul is always part and parcel of the Supreme. Part meaning it is like God qualitatively, but parcel meaning it is very minute. It is quantitatively different. Qualitatively it is the same, quantitatively it is different. Just like if you take a drop of the ocean water and compare it to the entire ocean, the one drop of ocean water will taste exactly like the ocean, but is that one drop equal to the ocean? No, it is not. So that is an example that has been given. So many people, especially in Hinduism, they have this misconception that they will become God and they'll become gods. But the problem is that you do not become that you are not gods, but you are gods. Okay? They're missing the apostrophe. That we are actually the property of who? Of Bhagwan. Just like think of it as a father and child. A father and child. The father is the source of the child, and the child, what is the child's duty? The child's duty is to serve the father, right? It is always, there's a hierarchy. Even though the father and the child are humans, meaning they are the same, yet there is a hierarchy. Yeah, there is somebody who is supreme and somebody who is subordinate. And that is the relationship between all souls and God. Okay? We will be of the same quality, but because the quantity is different, there is always a master and a servant. And the soul's duty is to always render service. And that is where he will be the most happy. Yeah? That is where he will be the most happy. For example, there is a master who has got a very rich man. He's got the most luxurious car, and he's got a driver. The driver is a servant of that master, but because he accepts his position as servant, that driver gets the opportunity to drive a very luxurious car, which he will not get to do otherwise, right? And so by the driver understanding his position, he gets to enjoy so much more than if he tries to do it himself or tries to protest and tries to become like the master himself. So souls are by constitution always subordinate. But if we try to become the master, that's when all our struggles and suffering start. But if we get elevated back to our original constitutional position as being subordinate to God, that's when we find the most happiness. Because that is our constitutional position. Yes?
I think a very important point to be mentioned here in the word is individuality.
Yes.
Where us as a soul and God, we are all individual beings. And there's a common belief in certain religions that the ultimate aim is moksha, where we go and merge with the divine being. Which is completely wrong. So we maintain our individual status even in the spiritual world, and we don't merge and become part of it.
Yes, that's true. Even in the Vedas, it is said that it is like, say, there's a very green tree, and then there's a green parrot, and the green parrot enters into the green tree. It might look that the parrot has merged into the tree, but actually the parrot is still individual and is still separate from the tree. It is not merged. It still retains its individuality. But some people want that sort of existence. But ultimately, it is futile. It is a futile attempt. So you're right in the sense that people have this conception that they will merge, and it is one of the features of God. Remember the three features we said: Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman. So what you're saying is people want to merge into the Brahman, which is still transcendental, but it is not the ultimate. It is not the ultimate. And ultimately, if you do not at that point develop the relationship with Bhagwan, you ultimately fall down and start again in this material world.
And also the word in Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 15, sloka 7, the word fragmental has been taken in a wrong concept, a wrong meaning. So when you say fragmental, it can also mean that you go and merge, and that is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But here what you're trying to say is fragmental means it is always a part. It's not the whole. It's not the whole. Okay? So now we know that the soul is eternal and that body will face death. So the question is, then what happens to the soul after death? The body is perishable, soul is eternal, so where does the soul go after death? So the soul occupies another body after leaving the previous one. Okay? Now the main point here to understand is that how does it do this? How does the soul move from one body to the other? Okay, so we have the soul, the subtle body, and the gross body. What happens? Death is basically this happens. The gross body is useless, it's finished. So what happens is the soul goes along with the subtle body into another gross body. Okay? This is how the soul travels from one body to the other. The soul is carried by the subtle body. The subtle body is always the same until and unless we get liberated from this world. But the subtle body takes the soul and it takes you to another gross body. Okay? This process of the soul along with the subtle body moving from one gross body to another is what is known as reincarnation or transmigration. Okay, clear so far? Okay. Now this will explain a lot of phenomena in this world. So it explains the phenomena of why people are born with different abilities, because people are carrying certain impressions in their subtle body of their previous life. This is why we have certain child prodigies. This is why we have cases of some people having phobias. Why do people have a phobia of water or phobia of heights? Is because they have experienced probably death because of falling from a high place. And again, all these phobias are nothing but deep rooted events in our subconscious, which is different for different people. So again, this is the reason, and the subtle body is the storehouse of our subconscious mind. Okay, so what happens in past life regression is one basically goes from the gross body and goes to the store of the subtle body to remember past life things, but it's very subtle and it's very difficult to get there. And what happens during the transmigration is that whatever you're carrying, all your experiences of the last life is completely wiped clean, so so that you can function properly in your new gross body. Okay, and there are many cases of reincarnation.
Question.
Yes.
This is if you're talking about from a human to another human.
No, this is for across all living entities.
But if you go for a lower level,
Yes.
maybe you don't have the SD.
No, you will always have the subtle body. You will always have the subtle body, but because the subtle body is made up of your intelligence and your mind and your false ego, the false ego, for example, you're moving from, say, a human body to a tiger body, right? The reason why you're going to get a tiger body is because while you are in the human body, your activities were such that you desired such desires of eating, say for example, eating a lot of meat. Yeah, that's what your desire. That is what is prominent in your mind and your intelligence. So what does material nature do? It says that okay, you have this desire of eating a lot of meat. Here I give you a body where you can unrestrictedly enjoy eating meat, and that is why you get, say, a predator's body. So, but because of those actions, your level of intelligence, of discrimination between right and wrong has reduced. Your mind desires have reduced in quality. Your consciousness has reduced in quality. That is why your subtle body is then prepared to take you to a gross body which is lower than a human, basically. But this gross body could be for any species, not only humans. Not only humans. Any other questions here? No. Okay, so the logic behind the idea of reincarnation is that in these two verses of the Gita, 2.13 and 2.22. Somebody want to read 2.13 and 2.22?
If the inordinate soul continuously passes in this body, from water to the youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into the other body age. A soul person is not divided by such age.
Exactly. And 2.22?
And the structure, giving the role of the soul, giving the accept the new material body, giving the soul and the
Fantastic. So these two verses are the Shabda Praman that we can use to understand that reincarnation actually exists. Okay? So that comes to the end of this session. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
So in Bhagavad-Gita,
Yeah.
every day Anayasa, they are working. In the physical body,
Yeah.
after doing the whatever they are doing, so after they are asking Krishna, they are God. Finally, Anayasa cannot take anything. The only good. Anayasa means we require or maintain physical body. And for taking our breath, we want to earn.
Yes.
Then it is good.
Yes.
Without earning, we cannot get the food, and without eating a good body, food.
Yes. Okay. Let me try and explain this through a philosophical theory. Okay. Okay, so there was this one psychologist by the name of Abraham Maslow, and in his theory of motivation, he said that a person has different needs. Okay, so at the right at the bottom we have our basic needs. Okay, so these are food, shelter, what else we need, clothing, and water, sleep. So these are the basic needs for our body. Once these are fulfilled, then what do we need? We are looking for uh, social needs, where we now our self needs are fulfilled, but after the self needs are fulfilled, a higher level of happiness can be achieved with social dealings. After social dealings, oh sorry, yeah, sorry, social is here, and then here we are looking at the safety. Okay, so safety is like we are looking that we will be protected, we have got some money in the bank, our future is secure. These are our present needs. These are our future needs. Once these two are fulfilled, then we make time for social needs. After social needs, we need what we call uh, sorry, esteem, or egoistic needs, esteem. Now we have our basic needs under control. We have our safety needs met. We have our social needs met. Now we look inwards. Like now, I want to achieve something in life. I want to achieve this certain level of knowledge, or this certain level of comfort, or this is that like egoistic needs, like you want fame and name. Basically fame and name comes here, but then at the end of the talk is you need self actualization. Now this is a spiritual need. This is a spiritual need. So until here, this is the gross body needs. This is a subtle body needs. And then this is a spiritual or the soul need. Okay? So what you are trying to say is that yeah, we need this, we need to take care of our body, we need our basic needs, we need our safety needs. Until and unless this is under certain level of comfort, we will not be able to progress higher. And this is where 99% of the world is. You go and try to tell a person who is living in a slum that, oh, you are supposed to be a soul and you should not take care of the body. He will not listen to you, because it's like, what about, I need to feed my tummy, I need to think about my next meal. So until your gross body needs are fulfilled, you will not be able to raise your consciousness to go to the next stratosphere of consciousness or happiness, which is at the subtle body level. But even higher than this is at the spiritual level, And this is where we need to get to. So, do you want to get stuck here, or do you want to progress to get to this place here? Right? So this is what I'm trying to say. That yes, take care of your body, take care of your needs of your body, but don't get stuck here. Don't get stuck. You need to progress to get to this level here. Okay? Because this is where we actually find happiness. And this is, he says it is a self-actualization, but this in spiritual language we call it self-realization. When you realize that actually you are not this body, you are the spirit soul, you are eternal, you are trapped in this material body, and this material body is giving you, it is the birthplace, or is prone to a lot of suffering. Then only will you understand that maybe this is not very important. What's most important is getting to the top. Okay, so this is what I was trying to tell. I was trying to explain. Any more questions? Okay. If not, if you're shy, then I'll come down and we can have one-to-one questions. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.